Welcome to our house. This is the Screenplay Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Grenis, and with me, as always, is PGA Tour player Andrew Novak.
What's up, everybody? It's officially the off season. That means football time. Let's get it.
Yeah, Andrew just finished his PGA Tour season and inside the top 125, so guarantees another year on tour. So we'll congratulate him on that.
Yeah, job security. We like that.
Yeah. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at screenplay_podcast. New episodes dropping every Wednesday. Let's get right into it. Monday night. This was the game of the year. Everyone was looking forward to this. I'm sure the viewership numbers were ridiculous, but Eagles come on top of the Chiefs 21-17. The story here was the same for the Chiefs. It's been kind of the past couple of weeks. Solid first half play, lackluster second half, including a lot of drops by the wide receivers. The Eagles pull out the victory, but we know, Mahomes and Reed coming off of a bye, it's normally a guaranteed victory. It wasn't that way last night. What did you see out there?
Yeah, the Super Bowl, both offenses came out fast and put up points early. And even in this game, they were kind of working it. But yeah, the story of the game was the second half. The defenses, it's officially becoming a problem for the Chiefs in the second half. I think the stat was they haven't scored a touchdown in the second half since third week of October.
Yeah, that's 3 weeks in a row. They haven't scored any points in the second half, like at all.
So definitely a problem. I mean, I thought they moved the ball okay at times in the second half. The run game was there. I think they could have leaned on that a little bit more, which is kind of surprising to say considering the Eagles' run defense and their front seven. But yeah, they are going to go as far as their wide receivers let them. And last night they let them down. MVS, that drop at the end was brutal. You can't drop that, but he wasn't the only one. I mean, it even goes back. Kelsey was dropping the ball. He was fumbling inside the 10. He's the one guy that's supposed to be the rock of those receivers, the guy that doesn't make the mistakes, the reliable one. So they got to get that figured out. I think they'll be fine. The Chiefs are a good team, and like losing to a team like the Eagles isn't going to kill you. But like looking forward to the playoffs or even the Super Bowl, those are plays you got to make, and I think that's kind of the one big red flag with this team right now.
Yeah, there was a lot of wide receiver issues last night in general. I mean, maybe it was the weather, kind of raining a little bit, spitting down. But yeah, the Chiefs' offense in the first half is great. I mean, points per game, second, total touchdowns, third, yards per game, second, yards per play, second. And then you look at their second half stats and points per game, last, total touchdowns, last, yards per game, 26th, yards per play, 28th. I mean, it's a complete difference between the first half and the second half. And the only real difference that I see there is Eric Bieniemy. For the most part, the team's the same, but Eric Bieniemy going to Washington, no longer with the Chiefs. So they got to figure something out in the second half because, like you're saying, come playoff time, like that's not gonna cut it. What I did notice though was Philadelphia made a big adjustment in the second half. They used Hurts and they used his legs way more efficiently. In the first half, Hurts ran the ball only one time. And then in the second half, he had 11 rush attempts. Big difference, turned it around, scored some points, held the Chiefs scoreless. And I think that's the difference between winning and losing that game yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. Tush Push stays undefeated. It's such a big difference in games like this where it's back and forth, close games in the playoffs. If you're in the red zone and you can turn those possessions into touchdowns instead of field goals, and when you're, third and two, and you got two attempts, and you're definitely getting it, or fourth and one, third and one, any of those, like you're just it's such a freebie for them. I feel like that keeps the playbook really open. And yeah, that offensive line is good.
Yeah, that offensive line is solid. I mean, there was even a play last night of Kelsey just sprinting after the snap and getting a large tackle. I mean, they're really solid. Eagles look good. Hurts doesn't even have to necessarily, play his best football for them to get wins. They got two wide receivers who can really get it done. I mean, AJ Brown was basically not even there last night, and they still were able to beat the Chiefs. That could easily be a Super Bowl rematch again for this coming year.
Yeah, they didn't even have 250 yards of offense, but 3 touchdowns, and that'll get it done.
Yeah. All right, Sunday Night Football. Broncos beat the Vikings 21-20. The Vikings were up 17-9. Alexander Mattison fumbles. Dobbs gets picked off. Sutton was the hero in this game. He had a pretty crazy one-handed catch, and then he also had a touchdown catch grab to go up 21-20, and that's how it ended. Denver looks a lot better. Wilson went 27 for 35, 259 yards, and a touchdown. Denver's now 5-5. Basically what I saw from this game was they have built trust in the team. They have built trust in what Sean Payton's doing. They're buying into what he's doing. 5-5. They're back in the hunt. They're right in this now.
Yeah. Again, I don't think this Minnesota team is a great football team. It was a home game, primetime game for them, for the Broncos. So things were set up a little bit for them, but coming back like that it's kind of win that you can get a little confidence off of. I do think there's a little bit of buy-in to that Sean Payton system. Not like the super high A-dot you might be used to seeing with Russell Wilson throwing it downfield a lot. The running backs, I believe, had 14 targets yesterday for the Broncos, which is kind of insane. But he's spreading the ball around, and they got a win out of it. I think you touched on it, but it really came down. Minnesota fumbled the ball 4 times in the game, lost 2 or 3 of them, lost 2 of them, but still, turnovers killed them. They ran the ball really well. Everybody's been running it well against the Broncos, but they weren't able to capitalize on moving it down the field. They had the 2 field goals, and you got to convert those into touchdowns. So I think both of those teams really needed that win. I think probably the Vikings are still maybe the better chance to make the playoffs, but I don't know. I'd put both of them kind of on the wrong side of a 50-50.
Yeah. I like what Sean Payton's doing with Russell. I mean, his first 10 starts now with Sean Payton, his stats are very similar to when Stafford came over from Detroit to the Rams. And they're also very similar to when Brady moved from the Patriots to the Bucks for the first 10 starts. His completion percentage is actually a little bit higher than what theirs was. And when you look at the Denver defense, I mean, we all remember them this year as the team that gave up 70 points to what the defense is now. I mean, that's all coaching. So definitely a big Hackett problem from last year. They don't have the same issues they do this year, and they're looking good. In fact, after the game on Sunday night, I put money on Denver to win the Super Bowl. Not a lot of money, but I put some money on Denver to win the Super Bowl. I was feeling really good. I'm like, they've beaten some of these good teams now, and they've turned a corner, and they've built some trust, and probably wasted money, but we'll see where it goes.
That is without a doubt your worst bet of the season, and you bet on the Patriots twice this year. So
yeah, I mean, let's see. The Broncos are 5-5, and they probably got to get to 9 or 10 wins. They have the Browns, the Texans, the Chargers, the Lions, the Pats, the Chargers again, and the Raiders. I mean, if they can win,
I heard 2 wins at best in there.
I mean, they're gonna
3.
They're gonna beat
Maybe
the Chargers 3. At least once. They're gonna beat the Pats. They're probably gonna beat the Raiders.
And there's your 3 wins.
I mean, they can sneak a 4th one out, get into the playoffs. We'll see.
Okay.
All right, Thursday Night Football. Ravens beat the Bengals 34-20. The story of this game was Joe Burrow going out. Not a great sight. The Bengals were up 10-7 when he did go out, and they were looking good. Was he injured prior to the game? I don't know. I mean, we all saw that video of him walking into the stadium with something on his wrist. I mean, players wear stuff all the time. The Bengals didn't disclose any information if he was hurt. They couldn't really narrow out a play in that game that hurt it. But yeah, I mean, if Joe Burrow's not playing for the Bengals, their season is done. Jake Browning is not going to be leading the Bengals to any type of playoff run or playoff victories.
Yeah, I agree with that. Super unfortunate because the Bengals, like, they started out so rough with Burrow injured, and they finally looked like they were kind of hitting their stride. Like, they just got, back to a winning record. They were on a heater, and then to have this to kind of topple the season back over is really tough. I was so excited. Like, we just don't get good Thursday night games. I was so excited for this one. I was like, man, this is going to be so good to watch. Then Mark Andrews snaps his ankle, and then Burrow gets hurt. And I think by the mid-third quarter, I wasn't even watching the game anymore. I think
Yeah,
Thursday night might be cursed. I don't know if maybe that's something the NFL ends up looking at. I know they're making a lot of money off Thursday night games, but man, the product just seems to disappoint every time. Pretty frustrating.
yeah, maybe
Um,
it's the short week or something, but yeah,
yeah,
Thursday night football has not been great this year.
no. You said funny that you mentioned Jake Browning is not going to take the team. His stats really weren't that bad though. If you went and looked at him, now there was a lot of garbage time, but he had 4 carries for 40 yards. He also was 8 of 14, over 50% passing for 68 yards and a touchdown. That's not super efficient, but that's not bad. If he doesn't turn the ball over, do you think it's unrealistic that the Bengals can't end up, especially, if he has Jamar, a healthy T. Higgins, and some guys on that offense, they can't do better than maybe the Jets or maybe the Browns coming in? I know the Browns are 7-3, but if they start shelling out a few games with having essentially no quarterback playing, there are
Hmm.
teams they can chase down. I know
Yeah.
I know when they get to the playoffs, we're not expecting anything out of Jake Browning. Like, they're not going to be beating playoff teams, but I don't think it's out of the question. Their schedule isn't super favorable. They have the Steelers, Jaguars, Colts, Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, and Browns. They actually have no teams with losing record left on the schedule.
Yeah, I find it
But
hard to believe that Jake Browning is going to win 5 of those games. Two or
I
three maybe,
honestly,
but
I would say the Bengals and the Broncos, I believe, are both 5-5. I think you're looking at like similar like chances of making the playoffs,
yeah.
in my opinion. Like, I just,
At 5-5,
don't
the
know.
road is tough ahead for no matter who you
Especially
are.
in that
Yeah.
AFC, I feel like
Yep.
it's pretty bunched up.
But I mean, Lamar played really well this game. Even if
Yeah,
Joe Burrow didn't get hurt, they were going to be tough to beat.
yeah,
Lamar went 16 for 26, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, 120 passer rating. And that's, without his top running back, with Mark
and
Andrews
no
going
market. Yeah,
down, with his left tackle out, and then later in the game, OBJ goes out. I mean, he's playing really well without his full team there. This is pretty crazy. Lamar is 53-19 in the NFL as a starter. 53-19. That's an insane record. That's a 74% win ratio. I mean, that's in the division with the Steelers playing Joe Burrow. Like, it's a good division, and he's winning 74% of his games. To put that in comparison, Aaron Rodgers over his career has won 71% of his starts. And that's with playing, the helpless Bears and Detroit every year. So, I mean, Lamar's a great starter in this league, wins a ton of games. I believe he should be up there, probably number one for the MVP race right now. He's not. He's, let's see.
I think he was
Lamar
second
is
last I saw.
yeah. Lamar is second with Mahomes. They're both plus 450. Right now Hurts is leading at plus 175. Do you think Lamar should be top of that MVP race right now?
Uh, I think he definitely can be considered. I think we're going to see a lot now that he's taken some injuries to some of his weapons. If he can continue to put up numbers and just straight up carry this team, yeah, I think it's possible. I think a lot of it's going to come down a little bit to some of the other guys, though, because Lamar, I don't think is going to be putting up crazy gaudy numbers like that you might see. Like Jalen Hurts, might tush push for 3 touchdowns in a game and throw some bombs to AJ Brown and stuff. Like, the Ravens have been putting up big points, but like Gus Edwards is getting some touchdowns. Their
Gus
defense might get some
Edwards is getting
touchdowns.
so
Like
many touchdowns.
it's, I don't know. I don't know if Lamar is going to put up like the crazy huge numbers, but like I don't think there's any doubt like how valuable he is to this team and how good of a year that he's having.
Yeah, a lot of that award is stat oriented, and I mean, some of the Lamar's just a big like W guy. Like
Yeah,
he gets
I mean
wins, but I
he
mean,
only threw 26 passes in this game.
right.
Like that's he was efficient with that. He threw for 264 yards. That's over 10 yards an attempt. That's crazy efficient. That's really good.
Yep.
But like you're not going to come out with a 5,000 yard season only throwing 26 passes in a game. So.
Right. Yeah. We'll see where it goes. I like his odds to win that MVP race as we're looking right now. Let's move over to Browns beating the Steelers 13-10. We'll start off by saying Matt Canada has been fired. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now. The fans have been saying it, the media has been saying it. Finally happens. This is the first time that the Steelers have fired a coach in season since 1941. So it's been a while. The Steelers are a great run organization. They don't do this often. So if they do, you know that this guy was bad and needed to go. It was 10-10 in the fourth quarter, and DTR had a game-winning drive to set up a field goal, and the Browns win on a field goal to take it 13-10 as time expires. Pitt has been outgained in every single game this year and are 6-4. The fact that they have a winning record and are outgained in every single game is insane. Kenny Pickett is not playing great football. He's regressing. This is literally insane. I don't know how this is possible, but how does Kenny Pickett have the same amount of touchdowns as Tommy DeVito this year?
Yeah, I saw Tommy DeVito has more career multi-touchdown games than Kenny Pickett as well. I've got a buddy, just going to touch on the Canada thing, diehard Steelers fan. He just got married this weekend. He said the Canada news was the best thing that happened to him all week.
Oh, boy.
So if you want to know how Steelers fans feel about that one. Yeah, Steelers have been brutal all year, but man, 106 passing yards for the entire game, sacked 3 times. Like Pickett is useless. I saw a cut up video on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and it was every pass that he even attempted, like past the sticks, and it was like a 25-second video. Like it was like 4 or 5 passes. Like there's just no hope in this offense. I don't know why they don't just give it to Jaylen Warren like 25 times a game and just hope that he does Jaylen Warren things, because that seems to be basically the only thing that works in this offense.
Yeah, he's a dog. His last 3 games that he's played, he's kind of gone off. I think he had a 74-yard rush touchdown this game. Yeah, he's been playing well. They got to give it to him more.
I don't know if I've given my Eckler theory with Warren on this podcast. I know I've talked with people, but I can't remember if I talked about it on the podcast. But the Eckler vibes I get from Warren, like if you think back like 4 or 5 years ago when Eckler was just kind of getting like started with some snaps and stuff with the Chargers, they had Melvin Gordon, super inefficient. Like he was kind of at the tail end. He was struggling.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what I'm seeing with Najee Harris. And then this Eckler guy would come in and he'd get like 8 carries a game and he'd bust one. He'd have 60-something yards, a touchdown, like every game. And he was getting like 8 stars. They're both number 30. They're both undersized. They both bounce off of contact, good contact balance. They both catch the ball. That's what I see when I see Jaylen Warren. Now, Eckler, I think, is, lost a step. He's gotten a little older, but, younger Eckler, he had that juice like that. And that's kind of what I see when I watch Warren play. He's a special player. And, yeah, I think he will. I don't know if he's quite big enough to, like, always be the guy, even now, like Eckler, they'll have Kelly in for some runs and stuff like that. But they definitely got themselves a good one with that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I like what I've seen about him the past few weeks. Yeah, they fired Matt Canada. I don't know if that's going to fix everything. I think that's maybe halfway there, because I don't think Pickett's just going to magically get better with a different OC. In his 22 games that he started, he has 9 of them with no touchdown passes, and he has only 1 multiple touchdown pass game. So just from what we've seen so far, it hasn't been great. With the Browns, do you think DTR can lead this team to the, winning playoff games? Like, what's the ceiling here for the Browns with Dorian Thompson?
Yeah. I mean, they did go sign Joe Flacco, so like I don't think
Yeah,
they're like
like
putting. I don't think they're putting all their chips in with
did you
DTR.
even
But if
know
you,
Joe Flacco was still in the league? I did.
I actually, my caddy's a huge Browns fan, and I was telling him like we were talking about this like a few days before. I was like, we were talking about guys they could go sign. I was messing with him. I actually said Joe Flacco as a joke, and then they went out and did it. That seems like a bit of a Hail Mary play, but like I don't know. It's not like their quarterback play's been good all year or anything. Like they've been getting by running the ball and defense anyway. So I don't think it's like a massive thing. Now, if you would have told me that DTR would attempt 43 passes this past week and they would win the game, I would have been shocked. That was not what I was really expecting to
Yeah, I
see.
mean,
He was
43
not
passes
efficient. He
and
didn't really do anything with it.
165 yards. That is
Yeah,
pretty inefficient.
yeah. But he only had one pick on 43 passes, which against the Steelers, not that bad. And he only got sacked one time, which he wasn't holding on to the ball too long. So
Yeah,
that's a
when you're the
good thing. I think
Cleveland
that,
Browns and you don't turn the ball over that much, you'll
yes,
probably be in every game.
exactly. So, like he didn't have a whole lot of yards, but I don't think it was necessarily a bad game. It was a division game against a rival team, like, and he got the win. So I think he's definitely going to earn himself more starts if he plays like that, and hopefully he gets a little bit more efficient and can link up with Cooper on maybe some deep shots and add something to the game a little bit there. But um, I don't know. This Browns team 7-3, kind of wild, um, but they're definitely getting it done right now.
Yeah. Yep. The Lions beat the Bears 31-26. The Bears were up 26-14 with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I thought the Bears were going to get this win. But the Lions scored to make it 26-21. And then the Lions get the ball back and score with 30 seconds left to make it 29-26. And then just to make it hurt a little more, Aiden Hutchinson gets a nice pass rush there. And there's a fumble, safety kicked out of the end zone to make it 31-26. The Lions are now 8-2 for the first time since 1962. I felt like this game, the only reason it was close was because the Lions had so many turnovers. It made the Lions look really bad and it made the Bears look really good. Goff had 3 interceptions. There was a punt return fumble. They had 4 turnovers in this game and still won. I mean, they probably should have blown the Bears out, but having 4 turnovers and still winning, it makes these teams, makes the Lions look a lot worse than they were and the Bears a lot better than they were this week.
Yeah, ugly, sloppy game from the Lions. I'm sure the coaches won't be happy about that. But finishing the way they did, still getting the win, pretty good. But like, don't do that against a good team because you will actually lose.
Yeah. Fields had 104 rush yards. So, I mean, he's rushing it well, but, still just 169 yards passing, nothing crazy. What do the Bears have to do this offseason? Is it, Matt Eberflus get different weapons? Like, what are you thinking that the Bears need to do to make themselves a viable NFL team in this league?
I think Fields is who he is, and if they're gonna roll with him, fine. But like that's what you're committing to. Like he's not gonna throw for a ton of yards. He's not gonna be like probably crazy efficient. As long as he's not turning the ball over, though, it's not gonna kill you. He's gonna run the ball well. Your running backs are probably gonna have decent lanes because people have to commit to covering the quarterback as well. Uh, I think honestly, it's gonna come down to defense. I think they need to clean up that defense a little bit. Um, they have not been, when you think of Bears football, you think a little bit more hard nosed. You definitely think of the defense, and I don't think it's quite been up to their standards the last couple of years. So I think touching on that, uh,
Trade out of that first
no,
pick and probably load up on some defense guys.
yeah, I would get some pass rushers. I think pressuring the quarterback would help. I know they went and got Montez Sweat, and that has helped. He did have a sack this week, um, but I think when you have a team that's heavy run like that, that really likes possessing the ball, I think being able to force just 1 or 2 turnovers, whether that's, a pass rush that gets there, forces the quarterback to throw in early so you get a pick, is just so huge because you can kind of take the air out of the ball and beat teams that way. So I think that would probably be a priority there for them.
Yeah, I agree. All right. The Packers beat the Chargers 23-20. I said before this week that if the Chargers lose this game, Brandon Staley is not coming back into the building. He's still there. I don't know how. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's Thanksgiving. It's a short week. There's too much stuff going on. I don't know. I don't know why he's still there. This game was close all game. The Chargers were up 20-16 late in the fourth quarter. Green Bay scores with 2 minutes left to take a 23-20 lead, and then the Chargers can't score. Quentin Johnston had a pass hit his hands that he probably should have caught from Herbert. Quentin Johnston is not a great player. I think he's kind of a bust, but yeah, the Chargers get another loss, and then Brandon Staley at the podium after was heated. The reporters were asking him, "Are you going to keep calling the defense?" And he was really upset. He kept saying, "I'm going to be calling the defenses here, and I trust in what we're doing." But I don't know why he's still coaching there. Kellen Moore needs to get a shot. Needs to get a shot now. Jordan Love had his first 300-yard passing game of his career, and of course, it was against the Chargers. Not a good sign. Good sign for Jordan. Not a good sign for the Chargers.
They made him look real good.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're making Jordan Love look good, you got some issues, especially with the most expensive defense in the NFL. So, what do you? I mean, why hasn't Staley been fired?
I honestly like conspiracy theory. I do think the Thanksgiving week's like a real thing. It's a bit shorter week because you have the extra off day, and I actually heard like somebody talking on podcast or radio show today about that being like potentially a thing. Teams just don't want to fire people, I guess, on Thanksgiving week. I don't know. That's the only thing that kind of makes sense. I think they lose this week, and he's definitely gone. But who knows?
Yeah, if they lose to the Ravens this coming week and drop to 4-7, then they're almost 100% out of the playoffs. There's no reason to keep them around. Like what? Like yeah, I mean we've been saying it for weeks now, but another one coming up this week. If they don't beat the Ravens, then yeah, he is fired.
It just I mean when you're a defensive guy, you're supposed to be the defensive mind head coach, and your defense can't stop anybody. Like, what's going on? What do you?
I believe their defense was.
Are you serving?
I believe before Staley came to the Chargers, they had a top 10 defense, and ever since he's been there, it has gone straight downhill. Just doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up. He needs to go fast. I mean, the Chargers are 4-6. They have the Ravens this coming week. In all likelihood, the Chargers got to win 6 of the next 7 games to get into the playoffs.
They have the Chiefs twice in there as well.
They have
or just once.
Just once. But they still have Ravens, Broncos twice, Bills, Chiefs. It's chances are about slim to none.
Yeah.
Did this game for Jordan Love prove anything to you? Or you just think it was a bad defense that he was facing?
Look, I think anytime you have a good game as a first-year starter, it's good for the confidence. I don't know if it's like a sign of things to come, really, because he doesn't get to play the Chargers every week. But it was nice to see him make some good throws. That was a nice throw there at the end to Dobbs. And I don't know. I think, like, to really start like having a ton of faith, like you need to see some like multiple weeks strung together against maybe some better defenses as well. But it was good to have, a solid week, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Like, can't really ask for anything more out of your quarterback.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Jordan Love fan, but I do think, they're going to roll with him the rest of this year, and they're probably going to roll with him next year too. He hasn't, he's not great, but I think they're going to give him some time. They're going to give him some time and see what he can do. I expect them to give him another year, another draft class and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think he's been downright horrible enough to just like kick him to the curb yet. Especially like he is a first round pick, like first round investment on him. Like you give him a little bit of time for sure.
Right.
I think he absolutely. When I watch Jordan Love, I do see flashes. Like I see nice throws. I see arm talent. I see him. He didn't really run much this week, but I see him making some plays with his legs, moving around the pocket. Like I do see flashes. So Yeah, I do think you're probably going to see Jordan Love playing quarterback for the Green Bay Packers next year.
The Bills beat the Jets 32-6. This was never a game. Buffalo was up 16-0. It was never close. The Jets score their first touchdown in 42 drives. That's right, 42 drives. Wilson was pulled in the fourth quarter. Boyle comes in, and it's just as bad. It's not good. The Jets are 0-11, 0-11 on third down. Wilson goes 7 for 15, 81 yards, has a pick in there. It's really bad. And then they said this week that Wilson will not be starting this coming week. Wilson is the most inefficient, worst QB in the league we have seen this year. The Jets have the lowest third down conversion ratio in 30 years. You just can't consistently win in this league with defense. I mean, they have a great defense, but you can't consistently win with it. You got to be able to score. The defense has limitations. You just can't win with a bad quarterback, a bad O-line, and a weak offensive coach. It's not going to happen. So even if Aaron Rodgers was playing, I don't see the Jets doing anything. But of note, the Bills did run the ball 31 times this week.
Yeah, successfully. Yeah, James Cook 73 yards. Looking at that, you had kind of touched on that. Like
I said, start them. I
you
said they found something last week and they kept it going. Yeah.
The thing I noticed for the running backs this week, I thought they were a bit more active in the passing game. Both with Ty Johnson and James Cook, they were looking to get them the ball in space. It was first week with Joe Brady calling the plays.
Yep.
And I thought he did a decent job. I mean, Josh wasn't really asked to do a whole lot. Like of his touchdowns, like he threw like a screen pass to Ty Johnson. He had like a little like kind of I don't even know what you'd call it. Not like it's kind of like a half wheel to James Cook, and then Shakir kind of just made that long touchdown with some pretty poor tackling by the Jets.
I like looking at Shakir's stats. I mean, he gets like 3 targets a game, and he gets like 150 yards receiving, or it's like nothing. It's straight boomer bust with him. Like you can't roster him on your fantasy team really, but like every time he goes off, you're like, damn, like should I?
Yeah, I don't know. He's done a really good job in that role ever since kind of Dawson Knox went down. They've been running more 3 wide receiver, and he's done a good job filling in. He's been, a solid player. I think he was draft pick from a couple years ago. I'm gonna check this. I'm pretty sure he went to Boise State. Yeah, Boise State. But yeah, no, he's been solid. Mostly, I think been working out a slot with Diggs bouncing around, but I liked what I saw from the Bills offense. It's, the Jets have a good defense. So to put up 32 points, and I think they only turned it over once. Yeah, they only turned it over once. I mean, that's big improvement. I'm pretty sure that was just a Hail Mary attempt too, the Josh Allen pick. So definitely some improvement on holding on to the ball this week. And if we see more of that going forward, I think I'll put the Bills back in Super Bowl contender category, but I'm going to need to see a few more weeks of that.
Yeah. I want to touch on, I mean, the Jets are struggling, but at the end of the day, like you're not going to win your division with a poor QB. I mean, like we look at these, I want to go through the divisions in the NFL. Really, pretty much every single division, you can pick out the best quarterback, and that quarterback is leading the division. In AFC East, it's, Allen and Tua. In the West, it's Mahomes. In the North, it's Lamar and Burrow every year. In the South, it's Lawrence. And in the NFC East, it's Hurts and Dak. In the West, it's the only outlier is the NFC West. Matt Stafford's the best quarterback in that division. And not leading.
I don't think Purdy's that far behind though, man.
Yeah, maybe not now.
He's playing good football.
Yeah, in the North, you got Goff, and in the South, Carr. I mean, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. Like, you need a great quarterback to compete in this league.
And NFC South is the worst division in football right now. So.
Right.
Yeah, Derek Carr. There you go.
Yeah. So Tim Boyle starting this week. I honestly don't know how this guy is in the NFL. I sent you an Instagram DM
Yeah.
a couple days ago, and like his stats are, it's almost like he faked his resume to get into the NFL or something. I don't know. Like at UConn,
Mhm.
he had 1 touchdown and 13 picks. At Eastern Kentucky, he had 11 touchdowns, 13 picks. And then in the NFL for the Lions and the Bears, he's had 3 touchdowns and 9 picks. I don't know how he was here. I don't know why he is here. It's almost like, oh, he can throw a football, so I guess he's on the team.
Yeah. Well, he's 6'4", 230, and if I remember correctly, when he first went to the Packers and was undrafted, Aaron Rodgers liked him, so they kind of kept him around.
Seems like
But
there's a lot of people in
that's
the NFL that have that.
yeah. So I don't know. He's the well, that's actually that would be a shot to Randall Cobb that he doesn't deserve. So I'm not going to say that, but uh, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be another ugly week of football for the New York Jets. That's for sure.
All right, the Rams beat the Seahawks 17-16. I watched most of this game, and I never thought that Seattle was going to lose this game. They were in control pretty much all game. It was 16-7. And then Gino gets hit hard. The ball pops up. It's picked. Gino has to come out of the game. It's 16-14 Seattle lead. Rams make another field goal to take the lead. And then at the end of the game, Seattle has a 55-yard field goal attempt that they miss, and the Rams end up winning. Cooper Kupp is knocked out of the game, and he has not
So
had.
Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker knocked out of the game. Are the Seahawks a legit threat in the NFL this year to make any type of playoff run?
Playoff run, no. Be the 7 seed, yeah, why not?
Yeah, I was looking at
Um,
the standings.
the
I mean, I
pro-
don't see any reason why they're not going to make the playoffs in that 7th seed. There's just not enough good teams behind them, I don't think, to chase them down.
the problem is they're going to get stuck playing like the Lions or the Eagles or something like that, and they're just going to get smacked.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can make the playoffs, but no, I don't think. I don't think like I don't think they do anything well enough. Like their defense isn't like anything great. Um, Gino's like fine. Their run game, like they have decent running backs, but they're not like an insane running team. Like they don't have anything like to super like lean on to beat an elite football team. Um, so I don't know. They're just kind of a decent NFC team, I guess.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Dolphins and the Raiders. The Dolphins beat the Raiders 20-13 off of a bye. I expected the Dolphins to play a little better than they did. The Dolphins were up 14-13 in the third quarter, and then Jalen Ramsey turned into the hero this game. He had a pick. The Dolphins go up 20-13, and then Jalen Ramsey has another pick with 30 seconds left to seal the game. Raiders are playing a lot better since Antonio Pierce came in. I think everyone thought the Dolphins were going to blow them out this week. That didn't happen. Tyreek still went off another great week, 10 catches, 146 yards, and a touchdown. Tyreek
And
now has, what do you want to say?
he went out of the game for a bit too,
Yep.
with a hand injury. He went and got an X-ray and
Yeah, I think
everything.
about end of the first half, he
Didn't
came
slow him
out
down
for a
that
little
much.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyreek has 1,222 yards now. He is 778 yards short of that 2,000 mark with 7 games remaining. That comes out to he needs 111 yards per game coming in. Give me a percentage of what are the odds that he hits that 2,000 mark. We did this earlier in the year. I want to say that you said 75 or
So
80%.
yeah, I think if he stays healthy all the way through, like super doable. They play the Jets this week, kind of ugly, but then they play the Commanders, which is like honestly probably as good a matchup as you can ask for. They pace up. Their secondary is not that great. Like that could be a 200-yard game. And then to finish the season, they have 3 legitimately good games: Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills. All good teams, all with offenses that can score. If the Dolphins end up in shootouts in those, I could see him putting up big numbers. Also, McDaniel comes off as the kind of coach that would dial up like 25 targets for Tyreek the last week of the season to get him to 2,000 if he had to. So, yeah, I think it's very possible that he gets there.
I'm giving it about a 50-50 split right now.
Yeah.
I still think as it gets colder, bad weather, some of these better teams at the end there, like you're
So,
saying. Um,
well, that Bills game's in Miami, Cowboys game, Miami. It's just they play at the Ravens and then at the Jets this week, but everything else looks like it'll be decent weather.
all right, yeah. So he gets, yeah, I mean he's right there. It'll be fun to watch. Should the Raiders definitely hire AP? You think has he proven enough already?
It's look, you got the whole rest of the season. I mean, it's everything. It's fluid, man. Like the team is playing harder. They're playing better football, but like
I'm not even sure if it's about wins and losses with him as the coach.
it's
I think
about
it's just
attitude.
attitude, buying
Yeah,
in the locker
for
room, how the
sure.
guys are reacting. Yeah.
And this is their first loss since he's taken over. So I think like how they come out this next week and how they play is going to be a big sign towards, you know, uh, whether the franchise is, going to choose him to be their next guy.
Yeah. Lastly, let's go. Texans beat the Cardinals 21-16. It was 21-10 at half. CJ Stroud was putting up stupid numbers in the first half. 18 for 24, 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was just the first half.
Mhm.
It was 21-16 in the fourth quarter. CJ gets picked off and then he gets picked off again. He had 3 picks this game. I'm completely fine with it. The Cards couldn't score. It ends 21-16. I mean, the Texans don't run the ball. They can't run the ball. So he's throwing it a lot. Picks are going to happen. Tank Dell had a,
Singletary, Singletary's been good the last 2 weeks, though. He's got over 100 yards last 2 weeks. He
yeah,
he fits their system a lot better than Pierce does. For what they're trying to do run wise, I think Pierce is a little bit more like I think downhill. Singletary's maybe a little bit better on some of those outside zone, outside stretch play sort of thing, where they're pressing the edge. But no, it's their offense in general has been cooking lately.
yeah. I mean, he still threw the ball 37 times. He's on pace to break Andrew Luck's 2012 rookie pass yards. He's on pace to break it by like 700 yards. It's like not even close right now. If he keeps up the same pace he's going, there's no reason why he won't break it. We've been talking about MVP odds earlier in the show. Should CJ Stroud be up there closer to the MVP race than where he is? Right now, he's at plus 1800.
Yeah, for how they do MVP, I think they would pretty much like they need to win more football games. I mean, they're 6-4, which isn't bad.
Yeah, it's generally like the best
Um,
QB on one of the best teams. And
but like, I don't like they. I think they'd still have to get to like a 12-5 kind of finish, and they'd probably have to beat the Jags out for that division kind of thing. I think for it to be realistic, like otherwise he's just like putting up big numbers, and he is having a great season, an unbelievable season. He's going to be offensive rookie of the year. It's not even close,
right.
but um, I still think he has like a little ways to go as far as MVP. Um, but like, yeah, I think there's going to be like serious talks about whether this is maybe the best rookie quarterback season ever.
Well,
Like,
so far, there's no question
yeah,
about it. What he's done right now is the best rookie quarterback season. Just got a couple games more to go to break that record, but yeah. Um,
really, really feeling good about my Panthers right
yeah.
now.
All right, let's get into our power rankings. At 10, we got the Browns. DTR is at QB. They have beat the Steelers and the Ravens. Myles Garrett is playing great and almost MVP worthy. And they have a great D. Sneaking into the top 10 for the first time at 9 is the Texans. CJ Stroud, best rookie QB we have seen. First 3-game win streak since 2012. They're playing well. At 8, we got Miami. Tyree can go off any week. Their defense is getting healthy. Ramsey's playing well. They're fast. They can put up points. And Tua's playing well. At 7, we got the Jags. They've won 6 of the last 7 games. They lead the NFL with 20 takeaways. They can beat anyone, but I also have this feeling that like they can just lay an egg and lose to anyone. Kind of a little bit of a concern. At 6, we got Dallas. 6 wins by 20 plus points. Dak has 119 passer rating over the last 5 games. And they have played really bad teams this year. So we got to see what they're doing against some of these good teams coming in. At 5, we got the Lions. Won 16 of the last 20 games. They've won 7 straight division games. Their O-line is number 1 in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. 4, Kansas City. Wide receiver core is dropping passes. They're a great first half team, and they are a terrible second half team right now. They still have Mahomes and Andy Reid, so not counting them out of anything. 3, we got 49ers. Hufungo, safety, is out for the year. That is a little bit of a concern. They have an unreal roster. Purdy is coming off a perfect passer rating game, and their roster stacked. At 2, we got the Ravens, trailed 32 minutes all season, only 32. Number 1 rush offense, Lamar is in the MVP race, and they can be a little bit shaky in the fourth quarter, so we got to watch that. And then at 1, we got Eagles. They are 4-0 when trailing at half. They are 3-0 when trailing by 10 plus points. They can win ugly. They have a dominant O-line. Hurts is the MVP leader right now. That is our power rankings top 10. Super Bowl prediction. What is your prediction right now?
Honestly, like I'm gonna go Eagles Ravens. I'm gonna go Ravens.
Okay. Yeah. In the
I
NFC,
think
like I think you have to say Eagles right now.
yeah.
They look like the best team. It doesn't matter what
Mhm.
they do. When I look at the AFC and I go through it, I don't think there's any team in there that is just all around good enough to get to like win a Super Bowl, except for the Chiefs. Like I'm looking at the Ravens and
Yeah.
like they're always injury prone and it always happens to them. And I'm just like, there's other good teams in the AFC, but they're just all like
Yeah.
good, they're not great. So I mean, I feel like most people are probably saying this, but Eagles, Chiefs right now.
Yeah. I wanted to say Chiefs, but man, I just see their pass catchers just straight letting them down at some point in time.
Hmm.
It's rough, man.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into fantasy. Week 11, we just completed. So let's go through our fantasy week 11 booms. Who boomed this week?
Y'all gotta listen to your boy. I came through with y'all for y'all. Calvin Ridley, 7 for 103, 2 touchdowns. I told y'all we eat wide receivers against this Tennessee Titans secondary. Beautiful week for that guy. It's good to see him kind of finally put together a good week after a stretch of some tough starts. Then we're gonna go Tank Dell. Absolutely going off lately. 8 for 149, a touchdown. The Texans offense has been super fun. Um, he has been a big benefactor of that. He's getting double digit targets every week. Going forward, like it's actually not insane to say he could be like a top end wide receiver 2, maybe even sneaking into the bottom end wide receiver 1 category. One thing to note, he has been a little bit lucky the last like kind of 3-4 weeks. Nico Collins was out for a few, and then he had Noah Brown out this week. Noah Brown's kind of been the deep threat, and Tank Dell did see a long touchdown pass this week. So when Noah Brown comes back, that could be something to monitor. Then we're going to go Tyreek doing his usual thing against the Raiders. He had 10 for 146 and a touchdown. He is just almost been unreplaceable in fantasy this year. Freakish stat line after freakish stat line. Then another guy who's kind of been that level of consistency, putting up big ones, Keenan Allen against Green Bay, 10 for 116 and a touchdown.
Probably should have been
He's been,
higher too. Dropped a touchdown right in
yeah,
the chest.
he's been getting peppered though. Another 16 targets this week with no Mike Williams this year and QJ being pretty brutal. He just, Herbert really is just feeding Keenan. Then we're going to go, good to see him back in the boom list, Saquon Barkley. Uh, Finally had a game, that we're used to seeing from him. 14 for 83, but then another 4 for 57 and 2 touchdowns in the air. Running back 1 for the week, I believe. And
Yep.
yeah, that's more of that would be appreciated for Saquon owners. And then I'm going to go to Ayuk for the 49ers. Another big week. He's kind of been a bit of like a boom guy, where he'll either kind of all go off 1 week or have like a little bit quieter week. But 5 for 156 and a touchdown, including a really long one, 76-yarder. Big week for him, and really just Purdy as well. Like that 49ers offense was really cooking this past week.
Yeah.
And,
We talked about
yeah,
this earlier, but Jalen Warren, 23.5 points, 129 yards and a touchdown. Really a dog out there right now. I love throwing these defenses in there. When they boom, you got to show them. Cowboys D, 24 points. That is the fifth time this year that they have gone for 17 points or more. And then we're going to add in the Bills D against the Jets, 22 points. Not hard to do when you're playing Zach Wilson. Trevor Lawrence, 32 points with 4 total touchdowns. He had 2 running touchdowns this week. And then compared to some of these other guys, it's not a boom, but it's an absolute boom for him. Tommy DeVito with 22.5 points and 3 touchdowns. We'll get him in there. Don't expect that to ever be in there again, but he went off. So
three most valuable pieces in fantasy right now: Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, and whatever defense is playing the New York Jets.
Yep. Week 11, we'll stay with it, but move to the bust side. Who bust this week? A lot of injuries this week.
Yeah, and I don't want to pick on the injuries, but Mark Andrews and Cooper Kupp both going down with little to no productivity. Tough to see. Jamar Chase influenced by an injury to Joe Burrow, but really wasn't doing a whole lot before Burrow went down either. Really tough week for him on Thursday night. I believe he had 2 for 12. Is that right? Yeah, 2 for 12. He did it. He did save it with a touchdown, but I would be a little bit concerned with him going forward. He also had Stephon Diggs with a super slow night, especially considering that Josh Allen put together one of his better performances with 275 and 3 touchdowns. You'd expect something from Diggs, but he only had 4 for 27. Tough week for him. A guy that's kind of been living on this bust list lately, and we might be seeing the end of an era, Derrick Henry. 10 carries, 38 yards.
Yep.
He had 1 catch for 6 yards as well, but
He is.
I think
He's had a lot of these weeks. Yeah.
we might be kind of seeing the end of an era there in Tennessee with just plug and play Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to go, this really could go for every single Steeler not named Jalen Warren, but I'm going to go with Deontay Johnson. You expect him to be super consistent.
The past 2 or 3 weeks, he hasn't been done much at all.
Yeah. Well, usually he's like a high floor guy because he's just getting peppered with targets. But he only had 2 catches this week, and that's just not super usual for him. 2 for 16. So I did have 8 targets, so maybe got a little unlucky, but definitely rough week for him.
Yeah. I will start off with AJ Brown. So in my fantasy matchup this week, I was down 1 point going into Monday night. Shout out Cal. All I needed to do was have AJ Brown get like 1.4 points and I won my match. He got 1.8, so I won. But like that's cutting it way too close. Like I was like, what's going on?
I'm gonna add in my league. Shout out Craig. Somebody make sure to check on him. He was down 2 points going into last night and had AJ Brown, and he ended up losing.
God.
But I mean, this guy, he's got 250 more points against than anybody else the entire league. He's got 2 wins all year. I mean, he didn't need this to happen.
We have someone in our league like that too. I think
he's tough to watch.
I think a kid in our league is averaging 130 points against per week. It's just tough to take.
Really tough.
Curtis Samuel, 1.5 points ejected. So not much opportunity to get points there. Gabe Davis, 0 points, was not targeted, had 0 targets this game and played. Weird. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Garrett Wilt, what's that?
He will have some cardio games sometimes. He definitely will do that. And then some games he just goes off. It's very hard to be a Gabe Davis owner. Just you never know when he's going to go off or have a stinker.
Garrett Wilson, 1 point. He had 2 catches and a fumble. Just disgusting. And then, I mean, most of these were injuries. Kenneth Walker, injured. Achane, injured. Aaron Jones, injured. A lot of injuries this week.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving. We're going to move over into fantasy week 12. Who should we start this week?
So I know he was a guy that we drafted high that was struggling. I said start him this past week. He was going to get in the end zone. He did. Tony Pollard finally put together a decent week. It's not lightning in a pan. He's got a good matchup against Washington this week on Thanksgiving. We're throwing him back out there. He's going to get you another good week. They're a home favorite. Everything should be falling right for him. I think he gets back in the end zone again, maybe even twice this week. So, yeah, definitely be starting Tony Pollard. Then I'm gonna go with a guy who's had 3 weeks in a row of single-digit points. Chris Godwin. He's had a rough go of it lately, um, but I think he puts it together against the Colts this week. Colts can be attacked through the air, and yeah, I think Chris Godwin finally kind of gets it back on the right track. I could see, you know, 6, 7 catches and uh, maybe get in the end zone this week and finally get you a solid double-digit point week that we expect out of him. A guy coming off IR, he's expected to play this week. Kyron Williams. I know he's been on IR. He's been hurt for a while, but they just cut Darrell Henderson. I mean, they're all in. Like Kyron's going to be the guy. He's going to get his workload. Cardinals is a great matchup for him. He carved him up earlier. Get him in your lineup. Don't be scared to throw him in there. And then another guy who's been absolutely cooking lately, and I don't see that stopping, is Gus Edwards. He's been super touchdown dependent, but those touchdowns aren't going away. He's playing the Chargers. That defense is terrible. They can't stop the run. They can't really stop the throw. They can't really stop anything. The Ravens are going to be in the end zone multiple times. They don't have Mark Andrews anymore, so they're going to turn to Gus Edwards. He's going to score at least one. I think very possibly scores 2 more touchdowns this week.
9 touchdowns in the last 5 games for Gus.
He's on that LeGarrette Blount fantasy line where he just, they get in the red zone and he's your guy.
Like you were saying, you said Chris Godwin. I have Baker. I have Baker versus the Colts. I think he puts up some points this week. I like Christian Watson versus the Lions. You can't really run the ball on the Lions. You're gonna have to throw it. Jordan Love has gained some good chemistry with Watson over the past couple of weeks. I like him this week. Jalen Warren, if you have him on your team, he should not be on the bench. His last 3 games, he's gone 14, 19, 23. Probably going to continue. Kareem Hunt versus Denver. Kareem Hunt's been a touchdown machine. Expect him to get in the end zone this week. I like Jordan Addison versus Chicago. He hasn't gotten in the end zone in a while. I think he gets in the end zone this week. And then Tank Dell, if he's on your team, no reason he shouldn't be starting. Like you said, some of the other players have been out, so he's been getting a lot of target share. But yeah, keep him in your lineup and keep him going.
Yeah, almost a 50 point over under in that Texas Jags game. That could be a shootout. Could be a fun one for everybody in fantasy.
Yeah. Sit him. Who we sitting?
I've got all of the Bears running backs against the Vikings on Monday night. Vikings been stout against the run. They just lost to the Broncos this week, but Javonte did not have a whole lot of running room. Didn't touch 40 yards. So that Bears backfield is a bit of a mess. I know Foreman got in the end zone last week, but he only had 6 carries. Herbert easily had the most carries of the running backs, but was super inefficient. And then Fields did most of the work on the ground. I think you're going to see more of that. If you do start a Bears running back, you're kind of hoping for a touchdown, I think. Just not a great matchup, not a good spot for them. Then I'm going to go Drake London against the Saints. The Saints have a good defense. The Falcons are now committing to Desmond Ridder. That's terrifying. I mean, it's not like Heineke was great either, but I don't like that as a good spot for Drake London. If you have other pass catching options, I would go that way. If you can find someone. And then lastly, I was actually kind of struggling to find some sits this week. This is a little bit specific. But the Bills running backs are playing the Eagles this week. It's a bit of a tough spot. I think if you are playing a Bills running back, you're kind of hoping they get there through passing work. I think James Cook, you still probably are thrown out there for that. But like definitely like a guy like Latavius Murray, if you're really struggling, like I don't think he's startable, especially since we saw Ty Johnson getting in there and getting some work this week. Could be a bit concerning for the Bills running backs.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Bills defense. If you have the Bills D, they're number 2 in fantasy, but they're playing Philly this week. I don't like the Bills D. Garrett Wilson. I mean, Tim Boyle's playing, so just that alone right there, I don't know what they're going to be able to do. Uh, Amari Cooper versus Denver. Hasn't been connecting well with DTR last week. Denver's D is not terrible now.
Yeah, but
Don't
they have
like,
Pat Surtain though, so
yeah. Um, T. Higgins may or may not play this week. If he is playing, hasn't played a whole lot with Jake Browning versus Pitt D. Even if his point value says 12 or 13 projected, I probably still like keeping him on the bench coming off an injury. KJ Osborne versus Chicago. Dobbs is just not targeting KJ Osborne for whatever reason. Since he's been there, they have not built a connection. He's not throwing to him. Got to keep KJ Osborne on the bench. Jacoby Myers versus Kansas City. Keeping him on the bench. And then last one is Brian Robinson, running back versus Dallas. Don't like him in the spot this week either. Okay, let's move over to the gambling side. A lot of games this week, 16 games this week. Thursday games, Friday games, Sunday game, Monday game, a lot of football. Here are the games and here are the lines. Thursday, we started off with Packers at Lions. Lions are favored by 7.5. Commanders at Cowboys. Cowboys are favored by 11. 49ers at Seahawks. Seahawks are getting 7. Dolphins at Jets. Jets are getting 10. Saints at Falcons. Pick them. Steelers at Bengals +1 for the Bengals. Jags at Texans. Texans are getting 1.5. Bucks at Colts. Colts are 2.5 point favorite. Pats at Giants. This is the loser game. Whoever wins this game loses. Giants are getting 3. Panthers at Titans. Titans are 3.5 point favorite. Rams at Cards. Pick them. Browns at Broncos. Broncos are 2.5 point favorite. Chiefs at Raiders. Raiders are getting 9. Bills at Eagles. Eagles -3. Ravens at Chargers. Chargers are getting 3.5. And then on Monday night, we got Bears at Vikings. Vikings are -3.5. What is your must-win game of the week?
I'm gonna actually go with the Steelers this week. Playing the Bengals, playing a Jake Browning Bengals team. They just fired Matt Canada. They're hoping that gives the offense some juice. I think the Steelers need this win. 7-4 sounds so much better than 6-5, especially with it being a division opponent. So I'm putting the Steelers on the hot seat this week.
Kind of a weird one here. We don't know if Carr is playing or not, but I find the Saints at Falcons. The Saints game is a must-win. It's a division game. They have a lead over the Falcons in that division, but they really got to beat the Falcons here to keep that lead in the division. I don't think they want to be dropping one there to the Falcons. I mean, the Saints are, if you don't win that division, like you're probably not making the playoffs. So you got to win that division to get in the playoffs. All right. Our bets have been doing really, really well. Andrew's 13-11. I'm 23-14. Last week we both went 2-1. 2-1, sorry. Andrew took Cowboys -10.5. Jags -6.5. Those both hit. And then Chargers -3 lost. I as well took Cowboys -10.5. Jags -6.5. Both hit. And then Bengals +4 on Thursday night missed. What are your 3 bets of the week? We're going to keep this hot streak going.
All right. So I was struggling a little bit this week. I went with 3 road teams, which I feel terrible about, but we're starting with the Cleveland Browns +2.5 at Denver. I'm not a believer in the Broncos. I think the Browns defense gives them fits. I think DTR does a good job not turning it over. The Browns want to run the ball. The Broncos can't stop the run. I think the Browns are well equipped to beat this Broncos team. It kind of fits the game plan they want to get into. So if you're giving me 2.5 points, I'll take them. I've got the Washington Commanders +11 at Dallas on Thanksgiving. I don't think the Commanders are that bad. I think their offense keeps them in this game. Biggest concern would be Sam Howell turning the ball over. He got that out of the way last week, I'm hoping. So if they can, hang on to the ball, I think they score enough to keep it somewhat of a game. It might be a bit of a backdoor on this 11-point spread, but I think they can do that. And then lastly, I am going to go with the team that I just said needs to win. Pittsburgh Steelers -1 at the Bengals. Um, I think they're in a bit of a honeymoon phase on offense with no Matt Canada. I think guys go out and play free, and they put together a good game and win against a division opponent. So I'm going Steelers -1.
All right. I am gonna go Panthers +3.5 at the Titans. I think the Panthers I think the Panthers win this game. I just do. I think they get their second win of the season here. Panthers +3.5. I am taking Dolphins -10. Tim Boyle might throw 3 or 4 interceptions, and the Jets might not score. So I think
Who
the Dolphins.
do you think throws more touchdown passes to Dolphins players, Boyle or Tua?
It's a good question. That is a great question. We will find out. And then lastly, I am going Ravens -3.5 at the Chargers. The Ravens have a long rest. They played Thursday night, got a little more rest than the Chargers do. I think the players in that locker room have lost hope in Staley, and I just don't see the Chargers winning this game. So those are our bets of the week. Lock them in. And that concludes our podcast this week. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at screenplay_podcast. New episodes dropping every Wednesday. Happy Thanksgiving. Get some good food, some good football. Any last words?
Nah, enjoy the holiday. Eat some good food. Watch a lot of football, and come back and listen to us next week.
All right.
Y'all have a good
Appreciate
one.
you guys. Yeah. Drop some comments, drop some likes. Let us know what you think. Appreciate it.